Hey, how we doing today? And in this video, what we're going to talk about is one of the most popular posts on my blog, which I've decided to turn into video format. If you like the other tips that I have, make sure you subscribe down below and get all the other tips. I'm going to have a lot of popular topics covered in video format. So if this is something that works for you, this is a great opportunity to subscribe early. So, how do we buy a house with a failed Title V, or really a failed septic system? So in Massachusetts, the laws under which we determine whether or not a septic system is working is called Title V. So when you have a failed Title V report, we say it's a failed Title V. But what we really mean is a failed septic for those who are not in Massachusetts and also watching this video. So generally, what's the problem? Well, the problem is if you're trying to buy a home with a failed septic, you can't borrow against it. The banks are not interested in loaning you money if the house has a failed septic system. So if they know it has a septic system and they know it failed, then your standard traditional loan isn't going to work. So what does that mean? Well, what it really means is that the number of people who are going to bid on a property with a failed septic is very, very small. So, I mean, it's hard to know what the exact numbers are, but maybe 1 out of every 100 typical buyers would then bid on the home. And a lot of times it's just because of a misunderstanding that it's going to be super difficult or hard to fix or whatever. And there certainly is some risk, right? But it turns out it's a very manageable risk. And as a buyer, even if you're a retail buyer, not just an investor, it is worthwhile looking into because generally it is very profitable for you to do it. So the bottom line is houses that have failed septics are often sold at deep discounts. And as long as you're getting the discount, there's really no reason why you can't do it. So how can you get around this? Well, the first thing you can do is pay cash. But of course, that gets around all the problems. At least in Massachusetts, it's a temporary one. Basically, if you pay cash, it gives you a year to fix the septic system. And then the town will probably start asking whether or not you fixed it. But cash is an easy thing to do. So you can also get what's called hard money. Hard money is another way to say private lenders, okay? These aren't banks, okay? These are people who've put their money together and they're sort of like banks, but not. They're very expensive lenders. So where traditional banking doesn't take on a lot of risk but gives you as competitive rates as you can get out there, private lending doesn't do that. They'll let you take on more risk, but they'll charge you more money to do it. So hard money is a solution. It's not really my preferred one here because there are other ones that you can do. There's also a loan product which is called a 203K. This is a federal loan product. Most people have heard of FHA loans. A 203K is similar to that. Okay, what it does is it allows you to structure the deal in such a way that you can borrow the money for the septic system and get it fixed. So a 203K is a good solution. The problem is the paperwork for a 203K is very difficult. Finding lenders who'll do 203K is very difficult. It's a process, okay? There's easier ways to do it, but it's still a good one, right? So, I mean, it's definitely something that you should run down if it's one of the things that you want to do. So, and the last one is escrow, and so I'm going to talk about that. There's really 2 ways that you can do escrow. But both of them start with you have to go out there and get a septic design and then send it around for bids. That's called getting estimates. So when I say you need to get estimates on the new septic system, there are steps in front of that, and they are complicated and they take a little bit of time. They're not super complicated or anything. It's not rocket science, but there is a process that you need to go through in order to get those estimates. But once you have them, you can restructure your deal and solve your problem one of 2 ways. You can have the seller execute the fixes by putting the money for the septic system in escrow to have the seller do it. You can simply, promise to pay the seller more, or the buyer can fix it post-closing, again with the same money that's for escrow. So I'm going to go over this kind of quick, but basically if a house is normally $500,000, but it has a failed septic system, and you realize that you can get it for $440,000, and the estimates come in at $30,000 to fix the septic system, I would tell you that's a good deal. When you fix it, the house is going to be worth right back where it should be at $500,000, and in the meantime, you're only paying $440,000. So what you do is you pay the seller $470,000 as part of the transaction. $30,000 goes into escrow. okay, and then the seller uses that money or the buyer uses that money, that 30K, to go get the work done. And then it's all bundled up in your mortgage and everything's fine. Most lenders will go along with this situation as long as, and I did leave this part out, you put 1.5 times the amount of the estimates in escrow. So instead of 30, it's $45,000. But you get that money back. Okay, so it's only temporary that it's 1.5 times, and you do get it back. So again, as I have down here in my notes, in these situations, buyers should be looking to make back 2 times the cost of the system. So if the system is 30, you should be looking to buy the house $60,000 below market. If it's 45, you should be looking to buy the house $90,000 below market. So it's very profitable to do this kind of fix. In fact, as far as a lot of fixes go, it's probably one of the most profitable things that you can do out there. And it's really cool because it doesn't affect the house at all. You don't have to move any walls or fix the kitchen or anything. Most of the time, it only takes a week or two to do a septic system. So there's not a lot of stuff where you can continue to live in the property. It takes a week or two, and the next thing you know, you've made $45,000. This is an overlooked way to make money in real estate. And all you need to have is someone who understands the process and someone who's willing to do a little extra work. It's well worth it. So if you have any other questions about Title V reports or septic systems, feel free to send them my way right here, either in the comments, or you can go back to my blog at Vanderbilt Properties and let me know there. Thanks.